He's tied. All right. Welcome to It's Time to Excel, where we inspire and we ignite the possibilities that are all around us. And I am just so blessed and so honored. Sherri, you have been willing to share your time with us, your expertise with us. And I'm just really excited because I know this is going to be a great topic because we were kind of tossing around what would make sense. But first, of course, please share a little bit about who you are and tell a little bit about you. I know you've been here before, but they may have forgotten.
Sure. No, thank you so much, Jen. I love being on here, supporting you and who you represent. You're always about the people, and I love that. So, and that's how we've been connected ever since. Really, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's got to be at least over 2 years, and that
Yeah.
is the power of connecting, which is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Tell them a little
So
bit about what you
yeah,
guys do.
absolutely. So yeah, so Lou and I, we do this together. We are a married couple, and we are the Lou Everett Group. We are business and executive leadership coaches and corporate trainers. And what we love to do is really help small business owners and professionals to achieve over 500% growth in their business and professional lives through our proprietary coaching system. So we love transforming today's leaders, especially today, nowadays, we need
Yes.
leadership more than ever. So we love helping.
Absolutely. And you guys are such amazing at it. And that's what it has been such a great connection over those past couple of years. And it's just, we have the same thoughts in mind. So just being able to support and grow together has been phenomenal. So I am just so grateful for that. And of course, we were kind of talking about one of the biggest things in when you're dealing with, especially small business, you got to deal with a lot of different personalities.
Hmm.
And your personality, and my, we sync. That's not always the case. And I know this is something that you guys, and you have such a great program, and this is just kind of a little taste of kind of the stuff that you really guys dive in deep with. But this we
Mhm.
thought would be a great topic to kind of be thinking of because I think that's one of the biggest challenging is how do you deal with all these different personalities, try to herd the little squirrels. I mean, I've been on a squirrel kick talking about all the squirrels when it comes to money, but there's also squirrels, just in different personalities. You got someone who, a lot of small business owners, they're great at what they do, but when it comes to numbers, you might as well forget it. Or they're really good at maybe this side of it or that side of it. But the same holds true on the flip side, on the customer side, because I think
Mhm.
you hit right exactly what we were talking about. It's all about connecting. And if you
Right.
can't connect with them, you got a problem.
Right.
So that's kind of where this topic came from. So I'm really excited about it. So thank you for those that have joined. Please drop your comments in there. I'm going to try to maintain that, but I know I'm going to be learning a lot as well. So Cher, I'm going to let you go ahead and jump in and start sharing a little bit, and we'll just kind of have a discussion around that.
Hmm. Yeah. No. Thanks. Yeah. We've done this, topic for a while now, which is good, and it's very common. These companies that are coming to us lately are all about communication. That's
Yeah.
what's really going on, right? There's the great resignation, of course. There's this great disconnect with individuals. So what's this all about? Right. And the pandemic has really been a blessing and a curse, but I look at it as a blessing because it's really giving people an opportunity to take a step back and finding
Yeah.
out what's really truly their values, right? I don't want
Absolutely.
to be in this work environment anymore if I'm being treated poorly. And
Sure.
especially my backstory from 2018, I was in the ICU in a burn center for 10 days with a rare disease because of leadership at that time was more focused on the bottom line than they were valuing their employees anymore. So verbal abuse and the expectations of working
Crazy.
70 plus hours. And this was pre-pandemic, and so we
Mhm.
know that's always been in existence, but now is the time to change it. And now
Right.
it's to connect with people. And that's what this is really stemming about. It's how do we do that? We
Mhm.
all want to be improve, right? And if we're a entrepreneur, we want to create that impact and helping
Right.
others, but you still need to connect with people at all different levels, and we use our influence by that. So that's why we're going to talk about a little bit about there's the multi different ones out there, but specifically the Maxwell disc, and it goes
Uh-huh.
about the different personalities and how we use the birds analysis. We've talked about this. You
Yep.
can use dogs as
Oh,
well.
there's all kinds. Yeah, I have to have a dog one. It didn't. Sorry.
Yeah, I know you love the dogs,
I do.
but we, yeah, and I love dogs too. But the birds in particular, it's always fun to look at, and it's always great to do in organizations that they may not know about their communication style until you
Mhm.
actually get, um, I guess, attracted to one of the birds, right? I put these birds up in
Exactly.
the room, and when we train, and each wall has this particular bird, and at some point I say to him, okay, stand up and go to a bird that you find that is just that you really like. And if there's a lot
Okay.
of males in the room, I said, if there's are there any hunters in the room, and there's usually a couple, I go,
One or
please
two.
don't kill my birds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know if you can hear one of my dogs is barking like crazy. I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm still going to be listening, but I'm going to go find out if, he's in trouble or something. I keep
Oh
talking.
no.
I'll be right back.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that we're finding. It's what's the communication, what's the connection, and their ability to connect with your audience. And what I mean by audience, especially in this with your audience, is how as a business owner, I have my own style, but that may not jive with another person. And it could be a potential client, it could be in your networking one-on-ones that you're doing. I don't know how many one-on-ones I've done. I've lost count from going through the pandemic, and we had so many networking opportunities, which
Mhm.
was fantastic. But each personality was a little different.
Yeah.
Sometimes coming across and being prepared and coming across a little more dominant than somebody that was be a little bit more reserved. That
Yeah.
was just kind of laid back and was like, didn't really have a sense of direction. They just wanted to connect to connect. So, how do you pivot? How do you make that other person feel comfortable when not, especially if you have a dominant personality, right? Or vice versa. So there's so much that we could dive into with it.
And we just got to have some fun with it. We absolutely got to have, but there's really 5 factors. And I think that's what are going to be our focus that,
Hmm.
because we're kind of talking about this and seeing just kind of revolving back and forth because it is kind of hard. Sometimes, if you have a very direct personality, you
Right.
get looked at as being mean or rude. And really, it's not that you're just super direct, and you
Hmm.
have no idea this is how you're presenting yourself and
Right.
things like that. So it's always been very interesting. And I know my corporate background, it's always very different because I was in pretty much a male dominated industry. And here's a little female coming. I mean, it is what it is. So,
Yep.
and it was very interesting because I always had a philosophy. I don't care who it is. I have a job to do. You have a job to do. Let's figure it out.
Hmm.
There might be a reason I was in that particular industry. Like, but it's a little bit tougher for some folks that aren't as comfortable doing that. And I think that shows up so much as we're connecting and we're trying to build those networks and build those communications. You want to
Hmm.
surround yourself with like people, but you also want to surround yourself with strengths of others
Hmm.
so that it makes it. And I think that's really key. Like when you're thinking about this, even if you're bringing, so we can take this in so many different directions, whether we focus
Right.
on the customer relationships, whether you focus it on team,
Right.
subcontractors to an employee, whatever realm you want to go to there. But
Right.
also with who's supporting you to move forward, kind of like your board, as they kind of tell. Even if we're solopreneurs, we got to have somebody helping us somewhere,
Right.
somewhere. So how do you communicate? How do you figure out ways to do that? How do you make it work? So
Hmm.
let's really dive into that and see. So where do you usually start? Because we got the birds. We're chasing the birds, and we've promised not to
Yeah.
kill
So
them.
let's do the birds for example. So
Yes.
excuse me. So for the birds, excuse me. So the birds, imagine that we have four different birds. We have the eagle, we have a very bright, colorful parrot, and the third one we have is a dove, and then the fourth one is an owl. So picture these birds in your mind and really think of what one that you are drawn to. There's no overthinking, just a matter of like, boom, you know what? I love the beautiful bird, the parrot, it's colorful. I'm just going to go to that one. Great.
Mhm.
Or, you know what? I really think the dove is really pretty. I'm going to go there. Or you
Mhm.
have the eagle or the owl. So depending on, whatever that you enjoy. So we're going to go to the first one. So the first one real quick is the eagle.
Okay.
And I laugh about this one because the eagle represents the like a very strong, right? And you should see the picture of it. It's just, it's the chest is
Mhm.
puffed out.
Eyes
Um,
above.
yeah, it's just size above. And it's
Mhm.
interesting why people pick this bird. And recently I did a training with a large organization. And in this training, no joke, half the people were either an eagle and the other half were owls.
Oh,
It was
talk about opposite dipolars.
right. I thought that was very interesting. And of course, the one that stood out on the Eagles, I was not surprised. They were daring, they were direct, they were driven. Hence, these were managers at different levels. Um,
Yep.
but they each had their own definition. Some were, some like that soaring, they like to soar high. Um, so it was very dynamic, right? So that's D represents the dominance for that. And we don't mean dominance as being like pushed
No.
through or anything. I mean, yeah, that's a part of it and that's a characteristic of it, but there's a time and a place when we can actually step through that. So D for the dominance is that's why there's dis. So that's for the first one. The second one is the parrot, which is the pretty colors and just it even has like a little smile face on it when you see it. It's really cool. Um, that's influencing. That is the I. That's the inspirational. They're very chatty. They're like kind of the life of the party. Those are the ones that would be more attracted to that particular bird, let's say. So they're influencing. They use their influence for that. Next one is the
Absolutely.
dove. Is very is the S is steady. That they're very sincere, they're very steadfast, they're very satisfied,
Mhm.
and they don't stand out, but they will speak up for it. So there's some great
Right.
characteristics we can go through with that as well. Um, and they're very loyal. Let's put it that way. They're very loyal. They're good listeners. So those are great qualities.
And
And
that's
then the
which
last
bird?
one is yeah, and the dove. Yep, that's Lady Bird. And then the last one is the owl, and the owl is compliant. And that one is just curious. It's compliant. It's consistent. It's cautious. They're very analytical. So here's where you see that they're more focused on the facts. That that is more about the details for it, which is good, which is really
We
good.
need those. I never
Yes.
thought of that in me.
Yep. And we need all of these and everybody is going to be a different bird, if you like to say, at different times, depending if we're under stress, if we're with our
Mhm.
families. It really just depends, but it's okay. We always have at least a little bit of an edge of whatever
Right.
one speaks out a little bit stronger, so to speak. Like I am a combination of a D and an I.
Okay.
When I'm in a room, the eye just is up the wall, is up the curve, right? Chit chatty, social
Mhm.
butterfly, the whole thing. Um, and then, but on certain things, there is the more of the dominance that comes into play of just being more direct, more brief. Like, hey, we need to stay. This is the big picture.
Yep.
So how does this relate to an entrepreneur, right? You're looking at this like, yeah, I've heard about these communication styles,
Yeah,
right?
I got a bird on my shoulder. Let's go.
Right. But then how do we translate this? Well, think about it. Depending on what your style is, how are you going to, let's say, that potential client, because we all want clients at the end of the day, it helps the world go round. But how do you communicate to somebody that is very, very direct and very brief, just
Mhm.
wants high level, and you're talking with somebody that wants more details, that they're very analytical. Um, they
That's two
just
different conversations.
right, exactly,
That's the key. That's two different conversations.
right,
And you're one person.
right. So we need to, as a leader, because you are a leader in your own
Mhm.
position, wherever you are as an entrepreneur, you are that leader. And just because you're that way doesn't mean everybody else is. And
Right.
that's a one thing that I learned as a business owner too, is to understand that is,
Yes.
oh, not everybody is a bullet point person. Oh,
No. You mean you don't want every single detail there is to involve before you make a decision?
right, right. And
Just
it's
the
funny
whack.
because Lou and I, we communicate with this too. He's more of a C and I'm more of a
I
D.
can
And
see
once
that.
upon a time, it wasn't like that. He was actually a high D and I was somewhere in the middle. So if I need to present something to him, I actually do need to get some details
Mhm.
situated. Maybe not all of them, but at least more details than just a high level. Because
Right.
9 times out of 10, when I get the bullet points with him, he comes back with so many questions, and I'm like, ah. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's typical.
yes,
That is typical. It's just it's absolutely crazy. Like, and it's really interesting when you are having those conversations because it's
Mhm.
hard to make that connection. And I think that's the key is being able to step back and connect with every single personality type out there.
Right.
And it takes practice. It takes being aware. And I think that's why this is so important to be able to share with folks is be aware of
Hmm.
what your tendency is because
Right.
your initial reaction can make or break a deal.
Right.
So if
Yeah.
you can take a pause and a breath 98% of the time, then you can, okay, wait a minute. They just need more detail. They're not saying no, they're just saying they need more detail. Because they just, well, this doesn't make sense. Oh, wait a minute. Let's take a step back. If what doesn't make sense?
Right.
So do they just need a little bit more detail? Do they need more of a high level picture? Ask the questions.
Right.
And if you're aware of how people tend to respond, it makes a huge difference. It makes a
Mhm.
huge difference.
Right. Yep. And active listening. I can't stress that enough, right?
That's a big one.
Sometimes,
Let me put that in chat.
yeah, sometimes we can talk ourselves out of a sale, right? I think
Yep.
we've heard that many times where we just have
Mhm.
to button it, put it out there, button it, let the person simmer for a moment,
And let them
and
process it.
right, let them process it, right?
As we go. Absolutely. It sounds like your gang's yipping too.
I
See, they
know.
agree with us. They absolutely agree with us. They're,
Yeah, yeah, they do. They agree. Yes.
I love it. For once, it's not my gang.
Yeah.
Somebody else is joining us. So we're going. Yeah, yes, kids. I know. I heard you. My crazy fool wrapped himself around the thing and was mad because he was stuck. That was his issue. I'm like,
Yep.
well, he doesn't ask you to come in. But there we go. Communication.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's exactly, and even that, I have to bring it back to dogs. You know me, I just have to. But
That's
even that, how often I knew when I heard him going, I knew exactly what the problem was because there's still, even in that, there's a different bark. So
Mhm.
when you're even taking that to the next level, how can you relate and how can you communicate with them
Mhm.
to figure this out, to figure out what direction? Like us analytical people, like numbers, typically you've got a lot of C in you if you're
Yep.
numbers driven, which
Yes.
means you need the numbers before you can make a decision.
Right.
You cannot do it. So what else have you seen as you're kind of going through here? And what other thoughts are coming to mind as we're kind of figuring all this mess out as we're dealing with it?
For me personally, or what we've seen,
Both. What do
both.
you think?
Okay. Yeah, there's just not it all goes back to that connecting, right? And using our influence. So first thing is to be aware of what your style is. And there's tons of other, disc assessments out there. You don't have to go with me per se, we have the Maxwell one. Maxwell just
Mhm.
really helps with communication. But there's some
Mhm.
other great ones out there
Oh yeah.
too. It just gives you a really great again an idea and to figure out going, oh, okay, that's why I need to be more direct, or that's why I need more
Mhm.
details, or hey, you know what, that's why I need this or that. So find out that's the most important thing. I agree, and
Sure.
what I've seen with other managers as well, and especially working with teams at all different levels.
Yes.
You got the frontline people, and then you have your middle management,
Back
and then you have
office.
your
Mhm.
directors. So there's such, there can be a disconnect between the two.
Yep.
Okay, so that is one thing, but then it's a matter of going into these 5 connectors to really connect with people too. So once you find these communications, now what do you do, right? So
Yep.
we may not have time to go over all of them, but the first one would be relationships.
Yep.
Who can open the door for you to connect with someone. Right. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's kind of an old
Exactly.
and to some degree that does still hold true to this day. um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where's your support at?
right.
Like
And it's
I couldn't figure out Teams, and I'm like, help, I need an IT person. But even things like that, and I'm pretty techie, but but absolutely.
yes, yeah. So relationships is one, building that. And how do we do that? Let's connect. Let's connect to what of who we know, who we put our surrounding ourselves with is key. And have that commonality, just starting little by little, especially if you're dealing with teams
Okay.
or if it's a potential prospect. So those relationships. Next one would be insight. It's what you know. So if you share an area of expertise generously, it just gives people reason to respect you, right? We always talk about giving value to others. Well, this is it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, it brings that sense of connection. And I love my present analogy where you can have all the wisdom and knowledge under the sun, and you could put it in a box, wrap it up in a pretty bow, getting that present, and then never giving it to someone. It's like, why do that?
Why?
Why do that? We always
That's
like giving. That's why we do Christmas time and we give gifts to people. We find more joy in giving most of the time.
exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we connect. And you guys are so generous with that. You are always running and offering knowledge and insight for folks. So just in general, and that's what I think I really was attracted when we were talking, is because we just wanted to figure out how we could share. How can we help? Can we empower? Overused word, but how can we just kind of lift up and partner those strengths together?
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes such a difference. But yeah, absolutely. If are you willing to share?
Right. Yeah, don't hold it back because we all need people. And
Mhm.
and we're emotional creatures and we need people in our lives. And don't forget, is it doesn't have to be so large. I mean, even just something small, we all need people.
Huge.
Somebody along the way helped you at doing something, either
Absolutely.
business or personal or something. Why
Mhm.
why not turn around and share that knowledge to somebody else?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so the next one is that we have is success, like what you have done. People really want to be successful. Most people do. I really do.
Yeah, the majority do.
The majority do. So they now, in order to be successful, they and other successful people, they seek out others who are successful to get advice. Jim Rohn, I love it. You are the average of the 5 people that you are
True.
around, and that
Yep.
is so true. You want to be that. It eventually rubs off on you. People that want to listen and they do connect with you and they want to see, wow, but what's your secret sauce? What's your success, right?
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so why not do that? And be genuine with that and your success, and to seek out others that you're like, I really need that, and stretch yourself just a little bit.
That's huge. Absolutely. And sometimes you can't always pick a couple of those folks, but you do your best as you're going. Sometimes you live with a few of them. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
My son was there. I'm sure he'd have a smile like quit back, or my husband, either one. But I have to give him a hard time.
Right.
They're not here to defend themselves. My show.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a person
No,
physically either. It could be a mentor, it could be a book. But when you do read your book, apply it, right? Don't
exactly.
be a shelf help book.
That's a good way of putting it. There we go. New terminology.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be shelf help. Read
No.
it, apply it, and then turn around and give it to
And
others.
share it. Yeah,
And
exactly what you're saying. That's what we're into three of this. I mean, you've got your insight, you've got your, I missed one, relationships, which gets you to the insight, which gets you to the success. And that's what
right.
we're all striving towards. And
Hmm.
what does that look like? I don't know. It's all different for each one of us.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the next one rolls into ability, what you can do. And the key here is that excellence connects. Excellence connects. We love saying that. Others may want to connect with you because of your ability in your area, what you do. It could be just your personality. It could be, wow, that's so inspiring. individuals like to perform at a very high level in their professionalism, and they often have instant credibility, right?
Yeah, true.
Simon Sinek or, John Maxwell, they just light up a room, right? I mean, Tony Robbins, all those greats that are there.
Yeah. Yeah, they just walk in and
Yeah,
like you just automatically. It's
yeah,
really interesting how that works.
it
But you're
does.
right, excellent connects.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I
And
love
here's the
it.
good thing too. It's like, think about, Michael Jordan. I think this is a great example. And he makes more money from endorsements than his basketball career.
Yeah, what's that say?
Right. Is it because of knowledge of the products that he uses them? No.
Mm-mm.
It's it's because of what he can do with the basketball
Exactly.
and what he has done with it. So think of it that way. It just, I love I think that's the best, one of the best examples, the Michael Jordan, for
That
that
makes a
one.
lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because the ability, and we are given each one of us have our own abilities and our own strengths. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it is staying within that, shall we say, the lane, but really focus in on your strengths because
Mm-hmm.
you've got some God-given abilities, use them. And then, partner with the other folks, as far as that part. And I think as growing a business, that's what it all takes. As we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about all of this, it's all of this intertwined, which is really cool. So we've
Mm-hmm.
got into the ability. So what we got one more we got to go with too. There's
Yes.
still one more.
So our last one is actually sacrifice. How you have lived. If you have made sacrifices, maybe suffered a tragedy, or overcame painful obstacles. Case in point, I was in the hospital in the ICU,
That's
and
terrifying.
yes, they're very terrifying. And I came out on the other end, but I was humbled due to the experience, and I was able to share those experiences out. And now that has turned into our purpose and our why of why we do what we do. So it prevents emerging leaders, entrepreneurs, everyone that's that business owner, that if you're leading other people, you got to know about this stuff. And this is so key. So it doesn't have to be as catastrophic as that, but think about what you, as in your life, have
Mhm.
gone through, that you've came out of the other end, and you're able to remain positive during it. People will connect with you and admire you for that. Be like, wow, like, that's insane. Like, wow. And
Yeah.
everybody
But it
has
gives
this.
them hope.
Yeah.
It gives them hope that
Hmm.
there is a light on the other side.
Right. 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 I mean, why do they have, there's so many groups out there, organizations,
Mhm.
and people have gone through different, maybe rare diseases, or of course
Sure.
mental health, or, I mean, anything. I mean, you pick a category and there is
It's
some type
there.
of support group of some kind going, listen, I understand. I had
Mhm.
something similar. I was on a similar journey. Or if it could just be something as a business owner, be like, I'm really good at networking, and but I had a bad experience, but I came around and I turned it around. I mean, it doesn't have to be big or small. I mean, just, you got to
It's all
share.
the above.
Yeah, yeah.
Life.
Mhm. Amen.
Life. Life. Yeah, and that's part of it. I mean, and we see so much of it. I mean, as entrepreneurs, you're juggling so many hats. You
Mhm.
have the best laid plans, and then I swear God just laughs, and then all of a sudden, like this whole mess is in front of you. I'm like, oh, which way was I going in?
Yeah.
And I look at my to-do list. I'm like, it grew.
Yes.
It didn't go down. What happened?
Yeah.
But, but I think that's part of it. I think as entrepreneurs, it's so vital as you're doing that. And I think that's where all of this comes right back into play. Do you
Mhm.
have the relationships? Who has been successful? Because you know what? It's going to take us all. I mean, they always say it takes a village. It takes a
Yes.
village
Yeah.
to raise the kid, to run a business, to do life.
Yep.
And that's how it was designed to do. And that's why I have just been so grateful. The folks that I have just been amazing, to be able to have that support behind too. I mean, our friendship has just been wonderful. I know, we've had some challenging times. We've bounced back and forth off of each other. And I know how much that was important to me because I'm like, all right, where do I go? And you can
Mhm.
take that step back and say, okay, well, what about this? What about this? I'm like, oh, yeah, I missed that part. And I think that's what you do for the entrepreneurs that you coach, is you help them work through that to get that transformation, to grow their business so that they in turn can grow others.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you're in your in the space where you have that legacy in mind, where you do want to have employees.
Mhm.
Because it's a whole different gamut when you're the solo entrepreneur, and that's great.
Mhm.
But then when you want to add another person, and you want to duplicate what you're doing, there's those
Mhm.
communication skills that are really going to be needed. It just
Yeah.
is. The ones
And
that
not
we
even if they're not even an employee, it could be a contractor as well.
Yeah, exactly. It could
It
be a
could be a
contract.
contractor as well. And you should I mean, because they're the ones supporting you.
Right.
And that's a whole nother little ball game in itself. How do you communicate? What way do you communicate?
Yep.
Well, okay, well, I do it this way. Well, that was in my brain, but that don't
Right.
work for that brain. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't work? It's just right here.
Right.
And I know I've had to learn to step back a little because my brain runs 110 miles an hour. I've just accepted that a long time ago. But I can look, I mean, that's just one of my gifts is I can take a look at something. I can look at a spreadsheet and, well, that ain't working. It's right here. Or I
Right.
can take a look at QuickBooks. I'm like, well, if you don't do, you got to go around. But that's just something that I enjoy doing. I'm crazy, but it's okay. It works. But and I think you've probably found that same type thing in your position. You can see through the weeds. You can see through the chaos. You can because there's something else up there, but when you're in the middle of it, you're just spinning. And when you go enough circles, you have no idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to have people around you that
Mhm.
are positive, keep you going, people that you can bounce ideas with. I learned that from Dr. Holly, where you have your own executive board. And
Exactly. As a solopreneur.
yeah, exactly. You can, there's certain people in your circle that you can call up and they don't mind you having a conversation. Be like, listen, I'm in the weeds right now. Can I have a conversation with you just so I can
Sure.
talk it through? And you just have to. That's the
Mhm.
best thing to do. It doesn't have to be lonely. It really doesn't. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
And that's not the where we want it to go. And I don't want to spend it lonely.
Right.
Might be
That's
the reason I have 4 dogs to go along with everything.
not, that's no fun.
Yeah, no, not at all. And just looking, and I think that it revolves in whether it's personal life, whether it's your business life, whether it's your home life. It really doesn't matter. The premise,
Right.
the foundation, it all works the same way. I mean, how many kids think about even if parents, 2 kids, they're total dipolar opposites.
Mhm.
Or, even like how often they say opposite attracts. That's always the fun part because usually husband and wives tend to be opposites too.
Right. Right.
It's really interesting how that works. And
Mhm.
where do they fall? And just by understanding that. And, I kind of mentioned like strong willed. And when you have a kid that's strong willed, it's a different little beast. You that response back, you got to
Mhm.
learn to navigate some of that. And when you have 2 of them in the same room, it's great. Husband and son. Oh yeah, 2 peas in a pod, it's fabulous.
Right.
But you learn to kind of focus that in and try to figure out how do you work through some of that.
Mhm.
And what do you do when you're a solo? Well, you still got to have support. So you still got to communicate. And the bottom line is you got to have sales or you're not going to be in business.
Right.
So
Right.
whether it's the customer and you're trying to connect with them, whether it is your team, whether it's your family,
Right.
whether it's your friends, or it doesn't matter. It
Mhm.
all is there. And that's why this is so vital. And that's why I'm just so honored and blessed that you were willing to come and really bring this to light. And I encourage you guys, I forgot to put the thing in here. How can they connect with you? Because I failed to do that because little gremlins, I had to reboot machine and everything else today. It's just been one of those days.
No
So
worries.
I'm going to get my little banner up here and go ahead. Well, how's the best way to connect with you guys?
Yeah, so definitely reach out to us. We are on Facebook and LinkedIn, and the LouEverettGroup.com is our website. So we are there. We have our calendar out there. We have our phone number. But yeah, let's connect. Let's have a
Did I
conversation.
do
And
it right? I'm going to make sure that it goes. There we go. See, did I spell it right? I don't trust myself anymore. Did I do good? I did good. All right.
yeah.
Please
So
reach out, connect with them. And I know that you have different programs that are always running and different coaching and different ways that you have supported the entrepreneur who's growing, especially in corporate. I mean, the gambit is there. And it's just been amazing. And I do want to thank you so very much. Do you have any last thoughts of things that we forgot or kind of circumvented, or other things that we just want to kind of throw out there as little nuggets that we did not
Um,
cover?
yeah, I think the best thing out of this is you can't lead others unless you lead yourself. That's the biggest
Absolutely.
of advice that I've taken to heart, has helped me on my journey. So, don't be a stranger. Reach out, reach the people in your support system is so dire.
That's yeah. And I cannot sum it up any better because that just summed it up beautifully. So thank you again, guys. Reach out. Let's have some fun with this. And hopefully we get some communications going here because, this is kind of a fun little topic. We may have to bounce a little bit more. I might have to bring my dogs in with the eagles and the owls. We may have to have we could have some fun with this.
Oh yeah.
Throw a couple squirrels out there with them and have a whole party. Just
Yep.
want to go. So thank you again, everyone. Please reach out, take advantage of it. Grab a spot on the calendar if you have questions. Reach out, and go to louevergroup.com. And thank you again, Sherri, for being here. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to you returning again when we can kind of have some fun with another topic going on. So,
Yeah.
take care, everyone, and thank you for joining in to It's Time to Excel because it is your time to excel. Take care, everyone.